Can we call it the ice storm of 2023? That's what we're in the midst of right now. Man in the hot seat today, you may have heard earlier today, is our Quebec Energy Minister, PIERRE Fitzgibbon, who is on the line with us right now. Minister Fitzgibbon, thanks so much for taking the time.
Good afternoon.
I heard you refer to this earlier today, what's going on here, at least in Montreal, as devastating. That's pretty tough to hear for people who are, of course, not going to get their power back, possibly for the next 2-3 days. Can you bring us up to date on what the latest is from what you have heard?
Yeah, no, I refer to the unfortunate event in terms of the trees and what's going on in the city. I think it's devastating. However, as I said also, I think the crisis is under control from the standpoint that there are 1.1 million people not yet reconnected. Almost half of them are in Montreal City, which is pretty bad. The good news, though, is that about 25% of the power outages are for 1,000 clients or more. Also, technically speaking, about 80% of the people without power are part of the circuit breaker that's been open. So it is consolidated. So the team that Hydro-Quebec has put together is 557 teams that were this morning. Maybe that increased a little bit, so it's over 1,100 people are really addressing the core issue. They're tackling right now about 400,000 of the 1.1 million. So I think it's going to go at a good pace. And the good news is that as the repair some of the circuit breaker or what's around them, then can have a lot of clients that return with power. So it's going to be exponential when it starts.
Oh, let's hope, because so far we're looking at about 25,000 that have gotten their power back on, and we hear that the goal is to have 300 to 350,000 back on by midnight and another 350,000 by tomorrow at midnight. Do you think those goals are realistic?
Well, I mean, I have to obviously rely on what Hydro-Quebec explained, but then we had an hour this morning, and I spent some time with them earlier before the call to get an update. That, as I said, we're not in 1998. I was there in 98. 98, we talk about the transmission line being devastated. Here, we're talking about in the city, trees falling, branches falling, which is pretty bad. But the problem could be served better than it was in 98. So I think we're at a different place. And the fact that today, this is numbers that got me comfortable. The fact today, the 557 teams are right now tackling 400,000 clients. So how long will it take to get the wire back or to adjust what's problematic? One would argue, if it goes well, then poof, you got 400,000. Almost close that could be repowered. So it could go very fast.
Okay, one of the things that's brought into question today, Minister, is this idea of neighboring hydro companies. So perhaps in New Brunswick, perhaps in Ontario, coming to help us. And I heard the question asked, and I think Sophie Brochu actually said, well, if we did that now, it would take too long to deploy. It doesn't necessarily make things go faster. And some people are asking, if we knew this was coming, why didn't we do that beforehand instead of waiting until it actually happened?
What happened? Well, first of all, we got news of that yesterday. So, right, there's not as much time you can have to predict those. So yesterday, the crisis cell got organized. I got involved with Hydro as well. The 557 teams that are working are not only Hydro-Quebec teams, by the way. There are entrepreneurs that do work in the province. And there's been some people from New Brunswick and Ontario that have offered to come and help. So I think Hydro-Quebec is doing the best it can to incorporate those that can add value, because obviously if you and I volunteer to go and help, it's probably going to cause more problem than anything else. So it's very technically focused, right? What you need is people who are, you know what I'm talking about. So it's not as easy. It's not as easy to outsource as one would think.
Right. You need to coordinate it. You need a united force
Correct.
to get the job done. You're saying, obviously it's not as bad as the 98 ice storm, but there's a lot of familiarity here, including the criticism coming up that the hydro grid is simply too fragile. What do you say to that, Minister?
Well, we went through that, if you remember, about a year and a half ago when the Auditor General of Quebec came up with a report saying that we had aging network. And I think Hydro-Quebec has responded that back in 2017, they've increased the maintenance capex that needs to go on in the system. There's no question that we need to increase the maintenance. Just to give a number, they quoted back then that they increased to about $100 million a year, how much they spend on maintenance of the network, of which a big portion is for vegetation control. So what we're talking about here today is about that, right? It's about trees falling, branches falling. So the question is now, should they have spent $200 million and there'll be no outages? I don't think it's realistic. I think the severity of the situation in terms of the freezing rain, I mean, some of it was unavoidable. The key is how quickly can you get people back into power. So, but having said that, there has been an acknowledgement by Hydro-Quebec that they need to increase the pace at which they maintain the asset, given the age of them, and nobody argues with that. I agree as well.
Yeah, which is all well and good when you refer back to when that Auditor General's report came out, something that had been known for years. So it's all well and good to hear you and Sophie Brochu say, you know what, we agree with that. We should be spending more. The question then becomes, why didn't we, and when are we going to?
Well, I just explained to you that they doubled the investment they made before in 2017. So they already had a different base.
But is that enough?
Well, I think the question can be asked. I think they can do more. But again, the severity of the situation with the number of millimeters of freezing rain, you could not have avoided trees to fall. Even if you spend $200 million opposed to $100 million, you're not going to cut all the trees. So therefore, there is a severity here issue that has to be considered. But having said that, of course, we're going to be asking if we should do more of the maintenance capex. But they've already began, so it's not that they've done nothing.
Minister, can I ask about the resources in place or being put in place to help keep Quebecers who don't have power right now warm and fed? What's being done on that front?
Well, there's two centers right now, one in Ottawa and one in Laval. And there's been a discussion at noon. I wasn't part of it, but my colleague François Bonnardel from the Public Security with Hydro-Quebec and with the municipalities to look at where we need to put centers, if any. So therefore, we will be there to service and to help people in needs. But the last I knew, there was two centers open in Quebec.
Are you going to be holding, I understand the Premier is holding a press conference actually in a couple of minutes from now. Are you involved in that? When is your next press conference?
Well, I'm driving down from Quebec to Montreal. I'm going to be able to go back. I'll let the Premier do his press conference. I'm going to do a couple of interviews. The issue here is really to make sure we understand from Hydro what's going on and make sure we communicate to the community when power will be reestablished, because that's obviously the key focus right now.
Okay, I will tell you as we end our interview, we're just getting word now, the first death from this ice storm, a man crushed to death by the weight of a branch. This is in Les Coteaux in the Montérégie. Just seeing this story move now. Hope we would never have to report that, but that's what we have to report now.
No, I've seen that too, and all my wishes for the family. It's unacceptable, and hopefully that we won't see too much of that going on right now, because that's not good news.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Hope we can talk again before this is all over.
Thank you.